Howdy, soldiers. Coke Zero, sponsor me. It's hot in Vancouver, and it's only gonna get hotter, and I decided to not start filming until, like, the middle of the hottest part of the day, so we're just gonna get more disheveled from here on out. So here we go. Remember, this is what I looked like before I turned into the melted Wicked Witch of the West. As you may or may not be able to tell, I read a lot of books. On average, I read around 80 to 100 books per year, and of course, not every single one of those books can be, you know, top 10 S-tier bangers. And every once in a while, a book comes around that, for whatever reason, I cannot stop thinking about. Oh no, my bun is already deflating. Nobody wants deflated buns. And it's not necessarily even my favorite books. If you want to watch a video of what my favorite books are, you can watch there. Because my idea of bookish obsession kind of falls into two different folders. Folder A is like book that I really, really loved. Good writing, good story. And then file B is like something weird happened, and there is one tiny little bit of a thing that's just like willed itself into my deep, dark, black, rotted heart and refuses to leave. And it's the books that are in folder B that I want to talk about today. Like, they're not integral to who I am as a person, but I think about them on the daily. These are the kind of books that if I see these on someone else's shelf, I'm like, we're gonna be friends because we both have the same mental illness. A few of these are a couple years older, some of them are just from a couple months ago, so without further ado, grab a drink. Oh, I put my drink down. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and buckle in, and join me as we go over 6 books that I cannot stop thinking about. I have not looked at what the back of my head is doing, and I feel like that is not a straight part. But then again, like, neither am I. And the back of my head is nobody's business, okay? Keep your comments to yourself. The first book is the one that inspired this entire video, because this is a book I read back in February? Question mark? That I've been thinking about, no joke, almost every single day since I finished it, and that is My Throat an Open Grave by Tori Bovalino. This is a YA folk horror book that really knocked me on my ass. I was not expecting to have such a visceral reaction to it. And you know what? That's nice. It gives me hope. It gives me hope that my little black rotted soul isn't forever jaded against angsty YA novels. I was sent this by Peachtree Teen, and I don't think that they even realized how much I would love this. This is a YA contemporary light magic folk horror novel that is set in the small town of Appalachian Mountains. Our main character Leah feels very stifled by her extremely religious small town and is constantly trying to be a good girl that her family wants and her church demands. But one night when she's completely overwhelmed by her baby brother who won't stop crying, she wishes him away, and wouldn't you know it, there is something listening, and it is the Lord of the Woods, this kind of folk horror tale fae king who is said to take children from their homes, and once the church finds out that she has made a deal with the demon, they force her into the forest to go and get him back. But of course, once she meets the Lord of the Wood, there's more to him than meets the eye, and she's unearthing secrets of her hometown and questioning everything that she's been brought up to believe. Dark and romantic, it's labyrinth-esque, there's a whole mystery of other missing girls in the town that the Lord of the Wood is supposed to have taken, and there's an absolute metric fuck ton of religious trauma. Now, if you don't want spoilers, you can skip ahead to the next book that I'm going to talk about, but if you don't mind sticking around, the reason I've not been able to stop thinking about this is because Leah goes after her baby brother Owen, and it turns out that she wished him away because he's actually her child. She had a baby out of wedlock, and the church and her community condemned her, and so she's been estranged from the community, and she hates the fact that, like, this child came from her body and how she doesn't feel any love towards him, and that type of guilt and understanding really, really got me. Listening to somebody forcibly go through having a child when that's not what she wanted, she feels like it uproots her entire life, and she hates that she is now tied to something, while also being, like, so scared because she's a teenager and because, like, her family doesn't support her in anything. I sobbed through the whole end of this, and there is no pregnancy-related body horror, but there is some grotesqueness and folk horror at the end that I love because it plays right into these cycles of anger and hurt and revenge. My only gripe is that this isn't as magical as it's pitched. Again, it's more like light fantasy, like barely fantasy, like fantasy if you squint. And I'm just saying, I would have liked some more folk horror, fae, folk, changeling stories. So, I mean, if you got any, that sound like this, leave them down below. The second book is Not Cheating, But Feels Like It. This is a book I finished 3 days ago that I was paid to read. However, I have not been able to stop thinking about it. I was only reading another book today, and I realized I had read like 5 or 6 pages without actually reading the page because all I was doing was going back in my mind palace and thinking about this book, and that is The Sins on Their Bones by Laura A. Samuelson. I was sent this by Penguin Canada to do a sponsored TikTok review. This was one of my most anticipated releases of this year, so yes please, I would love to work with you and take your money to talk about something that I love. Damn bitch, this did not disappoint. This is a new, queer, dark fantasy that is a Jewish folklore-inspired reimagining of 19th century Eastern Europe. Our main character Dmitri used to be the Tsar of Novosvitsevo. However, his estranged husband Alexei started using dark magic and used what he's calling holy science, which is literally just like talking with demons, to usurp him from the throne. So now Dmitri and what's left of his court are trying to take back the throne from Alexei, but Alexei himself is diving deeper into madness the more he experiments, and we have to see if using forbidden knowledge and forfeiting our souls is what brings this country back together. Now this is not some kind of new fun romantasy romp. This is fucking dark. This dives so deeply into the trauma and triggers of war, but also domestic partner violence and intimate abuse and assault. Dimitri's realizing and working through the fact that his husband abused him and how he thinks that he isn't worthy of anything more than that, and he feels so much guilt and shame over the fact that he still has this kind of twisted love for his ex-husband. And while yes, there is another romance thread in here that's incredibly sweet, and the found family dynamic with the rest of court is just so wonderful. All these strong people helping Dmitri find his worth again. It's wonderful. Such a raw look into how messy and complicated relationships and connections can be, constantly finding places to put blame and then taking on all this emotional labor. And not to make light of it, because divorce is a bitch and marriage itself is not only one thing, but like when your spouse starts summoning demons, red flag. I'm so impressed with how this relationship was built and deconstructed. I think this has stuck with me more than other books I've read with toxic or traumatic relationships, just because this goes into it in a depth that I have never read before. Also, some freaking wild body horror at the end. Just, it was great, but also damn. And that body horror scene has also been sticking with me, because your sins are written on your bones, and now so is the name of God. Oh, has this been crooked the whole time? Ugh. I don't know if that's better. Third book is something I have a storied history with, haha, pun intended, and it also has a little bit of a story, so like bear with me. It's Rachel's Storytime Hour. Back in ye olden days of 2013, I was heavily involved on Wattpad, and one of the stories that I was absolutely obsessed with was about death personified, and like who doesn't love death personified, right? Okay, the Grim Reaper can get it. But it was about this teenage girl who finds out that this quiet classmate of hers passes away by his own design. And she feels really bad because it seems like no one else really cares that he's gone, and she feels like his life was cut short. And one day when she's walking home from school, Death himself shows up and tells her that he'll give her a month to go back in time to see if she can save him from making his final choice. And that was a book called In 27 Days. Alison Gervais, aka Honor in the Rain, created one of my favorite stories on the platform that was all about forgiveness and not judging people by first impressions, the importance of family, the importance of friendship, the importance of mental health awareness in teens. And the copy I'm holding in my hands has such a special place in my heart because back when I worked at a bookstore, had somebody come up to the counter holding this book, and I remember doing the like, oh hi, how are you, do you have a rewards card, blah blah blah, looking down at it, and something clicked in the very back of my brain. There was a hamster wheel that just slowly started turning again, and when I realized what this was, I actually screamed. I think I frightened the young woman in front of me, but when it comes to books, I do not fuck around. Wattpad nostalgia deserves my enthusiasm, and I'm so sorry that the younger generation just doesn't appreciate the classics. This is a grumpy sunshine relationship between Hadley and Archer that I absolutely adore. I love Archer's family, and I love that they're so involved in this story. Hadley growing into herself and coming to a deeper understanding of other people's struggles as she accepts this responsibility. And of course, there's a bit of romance, and I don't hate it. I think their begrudging friendship to lovers really, really works. And like Death himself and the chaoses of evil are so fun, and I wish that we had gotten a whole secondary backstory with just him. If you read the original In 27 Days story on Wattpad, please let me know, and please pick this up. Like, it is a little, just the teeniest bit different. Obviously, we had some copy edits happen before this like went to print, but for the most part, it's the same story, and it makes my heart so happy. Anytime I'm thinking about that point in my life, or my OG favorite YA books, or anytime I'm thinking about like my own mortality and death, I always think of this. It's not as bad as it sounds. I just have a small obsession with animal bones, and may or may not have some taxidermy animals in my house. I'm doing well mentally, as well as you can believe this is. Should we break this up and do a fun contemporary summertime rom-com that I haven't been able to stop thinking about since I read it? Sure, why not? Let's do it. When I was originally making this list, I thought it would just all be fantasies because, as you can see, that's about 95% of what's on my shelves, and the other 5% is split up between gay sci-fi and gayer rom-coms. And I know I'm using a lot of like death and decay language, but it's very rare for a fun, summery, fluffy contemporary to like worm its way into my deep, dark, black heart. And yet somehow, Book Lovers by Emily Henry is a book that I would still love if it was a worm. So dumb. Oh my god. When I was thinking of adding in a rom-com, my immediately first thought was to go for Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake, because that's my favorite contemporary rom-com. But then I thought, that's not something that keeps me up at night. So I'm sure Delilah would do a great job of that. And I think it's just being a book person, but I'm an utter and complete sucker for any book that has to do with book people. And this is an adult rivals to lovers rom-com that centers two people in the publishing industry who both are going back to a small town for the summer and have to work together to save the love interest family's bookstore. Nora is a cutthroat literary agent whose whole family thinks she works too hard, so her younger sister Libby convinces her to take some time off and go to this cabin retreat and like bond with family. But once she gets to this remote town, she bumps into Charlie, who is a book editor who have a sordid history of not liking each other, but his family owns the bookstore that's about to be closing, and Nora decides that to do a good deed, that she will try and help the bookstore stay afloat, and then of course they have to spend more time together and they get to know each other, and they fall in love, and then book stuff and literary references abound. Oh, I went away for like 10 minutes to refill this, and now the light's all different. Whatever, you can tell this isn't professional grade. As somebody else whose life is books, I highly relate to Nora, especially her want and need to like be a career woman and like stay in the city. And there's a whole joke at the very beginning of her getting dumped by her boyfriend who like moved back to his small town to help his parents and like met and fell in love with a Christmas tree farm owner, and she's there on the phone like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I am now the bitch in every Hallmark movie. And you know what? That honestly, goals. I would like to be the bitch in a Hallmark movie. Hell yeah, girl. And y'all know I love a broody, pathetic string bean of a man, which is exactly what Charlie is, and watching his professional walls kind of crack a little bit around Nora is so great. I'm like, oh my gosh, you do have a heart and a personality and like a fantastic all black capsule wardrobe. We love that for you. And that's why I think about this book so much, because this is literally my ideal. It's my ideal job. It's living in a big city. It's having a fun retreat that leads to a meet cute in a bookstore with a serious yet romantic man who also looks like I could break him in half, who then move back to the city and have their perfect double income, no kids lifestyle and work in publishing and then like talk about books with each other. That sounds fantastic. And not to say I like don't already have that, because like I work in publishing and I live in a city and I don't plan on having children, and I did have a meet cute with my girlfriend in a bookstore. I wasn't our original meet cute, but like I made something happen. Book Lovers is my favorite Emily Henry book, and even though my partner would say otherwise, I think that she's incorrect and she can fight me about it. Second last is one that I'm breaking my own rules over because it's my video and I can do whatever I want and you're not my real dad. This book, or this book series, is the most Roman Empire-y of Roman Empire books. These are books that I am truly obsessed with. They have knitted their way into the weave of my personality. I went into these books and came out of them with different DNA. Probably none of you are surprised, but we gotta talk about The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Longtime return viewers will know exactly what I'm gonna say in this part, so like really you can skip it. This is a YA contemporary fantasy that focuses on ley line magic and Welsh folklore. We follow Psychic's daughter Blue and her 4 Raven boys, Gansey, Ronan, Adam, and Noah, as they all quest to find the sleeping king Glendower, who is said to grant a favor to whoever wakes him up, and of course they all want that favor for different reasons. And though they all come from different different backgrounds and have a variety of magical secrets. The four of them bond in a way that not even death can touch, as all of them are unearthing secrets and finding out the history of the ley line. It's funny, it's witchy, it's heartwarming, it has amazing depictions of male friendships, but I never stop thinking about this series because of its friendship dynamics and also its uncanniness. That kind of uncanny, fey, corrupted nature magic is extremely my shit. We have forests bonding with humans, we have people being able to pull things out of dreams, ghosts stuck in time loops, and demons made of wasps. I think about quotes from these books all the time. I literally have one tattooed on me. It is, be afraid and happy. And the whole sentence goes, if you cannot be unafraid, be afraid and happy. You can't live your life being afraid of something. And like, you have to accept that you will be scared, but you also have to find joy. A quote that I think of from Blue all the time that makes my heart hurt in a way that I can't explain is, she recognized the strange happiness that came from loving something without knowing why you did. That strange happiness that was sometimes so big that it felt like sadness. In that moment, Blue was a little in love with all of them. Their magic, their quests, their awfulness and strangeness. Her Raven boys. Oh, why does that resonate so much with me? Who was I in a past life? The way that Ronan's father says his name like he meant to say the word knife, but at the last minute said Ronan. What are you talking about, ma'am? Also, there's a quote in The Raven King where Adam is in a corrupted forest dream and he watches a clone of himself eat its own hand. Read that in, 2015. Haven't stopped thinking about it since. I will never shut up about this series. It touched something deep in my soul, and I'm literally looking for Glendower. That's what I am doing this whole time. I haven't found him yet, so I guess I gotta keep going. For the last book we talked about dreams, but for the final book we're gonna talk about nightmares. Oh, that was a good segue. This final book kind of surprised me, but for an odd reason, because when I went into it, I was like, this has everything I love, and I'm pretty much guaranteed to at least like this book, and I ended up loving it. It has cool tarot card-based magic, we get some sick, decrepit castles, we get some kingdom politics, we get this kind of antagonist to lovers, and I don't think it's just me who loves a monstrous girl. Something about this particular magic style, something about this particular character has not made me able to sleep without thinking about this at least like once a week, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is a book I got recommended from TikTok, and I'm not here to shit on TikTok because like that's mainly what I do and also where I get the majority of my book recommendations from. But even if it comes from a trusted source, my expectations for popular book talk books tend to be just a little lower. And when I first heard everyone talking about this online, everyone that talked about it sounded like they were talking about a different book, and I was like, what even is this, right? So then the curiosity demon inside my head got a hold of me, and I had to buy it and read it, and oh hey, guess what? I loved it. And that spun me into my slow spiral descent into obsession over this freaking tarot card deck of cards magic. Our main character Elspeth lives in the kingdom of Blunder, which was cursed hundreds of years ago to be within this magical mist, and you can't leave the town because the mist will make you go mad. And there's this deck of cards in the kingdom that act both as their source of magic, but also as a symbol of political power. If you own one of these cards, you're able to use a different kind of magic based on what suit you get. But what Elspeth's family doesn't know is that years ago, she touched the nightmare card, and now she has a demon sharing space in her head, apparently rent-free. And because of this passenger, she has the ability to sense magic, and she gets pulled in to a coup against the king by the traitor prince, and then the plotline stuff happens, you know. And each of the chapter headings has a card with a little fucked up poem about that card's power and like how it came to manifest itself. Providence cards are ageless. Their magic does not fade. They do not decay with time. They cannot be destroyed. Providence cards are ageless. Be wary the moss, be wary the fence. Be wary the gate in the mist dark and dense. It'll stop all your tears, it'll steal all your years. Be wary the gate in the mist dark and dense. Girl! Ooh, love it. Give it to me. Give me the mist. There's murder, there's mayhem, there's magic, there's mystery, there's romance, there's kissing in the ruins of castles, which, like, goals. Spooky forests and a royal family that is much more cunning than they let on. I love the royalty in this, particularly some of, like, the brothers and the cousins really came into play in a way that I wasn't expecting and adored. The writing in this, too, like, repetition and the kind of lullaby cadence to a lot of their myths and a lot of their sayings. So unsettling, and it leaves the reader on edge in the best possible way. So be clever, be good, follow along with the girl, the king, and the monster they became. And that is that on that. This was good. I feel cleansed. Now, something about me is that I have never been a die-hard, hardcore fangirl about anything. I've never had it for like a band. It's never been for like a series of any kind or like an actor. And sometimes I think it's kind of sad because I've never had that experience of this all-encompassing love for like one thing. However, I also know that with my personality, I could very easily go in that direction. So I have like tempered myself so that I don't do that, because I know that that is very unhealthy for me because I will obsess over something. So today was good to let me obsess in just a small little safe space, and now I can move on with my life and I feel much better. I have a feeling I'm going to be thinking about these for the next 6 months. And you know what? That's a good story right there. Please leave down below some books that you obsess over. It could be your favorite book. It could be a book that you can't stop thinking about. I find it so interesting to see what people attach themselves to and like what really resonates with people, because like, for example, My Throat, an Open Grave, I read it, loved it, immediately bullied my girlfriend into reading it as well. And she was just like, yeah, it was fine. Like I saw the twist coming. It was good. Yeah, a little sad at the end, but like no big deal. And I was like, no big deal. Are we gonna have to break up? Some people can watch a movie, go, that was great, and immediately leave, never think about it again. Some people, like me, decide that, yes, grilled cheese sandwiches are the new thing that I'm going to be eating for the next 4 weeks in a row, and that's just how life is. That is 100% true. I've just got over my little grilled cheese obsession, which is good because vegan cheese is expensive. You know where to click to like the video. You know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!